Hello everyone and welcome to CCNA Packet Tracer Skills Integration Challenge, Configuring and Testing Your Network. In this Packet Tracer Skills Integration Challenge Lab, you will build, address, configure, and test the standard lab topology used throughout the course. So let's get started. First, connect the devices as specified in the instruction. We will use crossover connection in connecting server to R1 ISP router with the port pass Ethernet 00. And we are going to use DCE1 connection and connecting R1 ISP router to R2 central router with a serial port 00. And straight through connection to connect the end devices to switch and router. With fast Ethernet 01 port and fast Ethernet 02 port, as well as S1 central switch with 024 port to R2 central fast Ethernet 00. Since we're done connecting the devices, let's proceed to task 2, which is to build and configure the network. Given the IP address 192.168.3.0/24 and the tables shown in the screen are the IP addresses and subnet masks needed in configuring the devices. So let's start configuring from the server. It is stated in the instruction that for the server, enable DNS services and use the domain name eagleserver.example.com and enable the HTTP services. So let's continue. Click the server and then go to Configuration tab and find DNS services and enable. The domain name will be from the given instruction eagleserver.example.com with an IP address of 192.168.3.77. Then click Add. Next is go to HTTP and as well enable. And let's proceed in configuring the fast Ethernet interface. The IP address will be 192.168.3.77 with a subnet mask of 255.255.240. Then go to Global Settings and the gateway will be the IP address of the devices which we are connected to. As shown in the diagram, our server is connected to R1 ISP router, so the IP address will be 192.168.3.78. So we're done configuring the server. As you can see in the completion percentage, which has 33%, or we can also check the results under assessment items. As you can see, there are green check marks that shows that we configure all correctly. So let's close and proceed. Let's proceed configuring router 1 ISP. It is stated in the instruction to configure the routers using the command line interface. The router configuration must include housekeeping, hostname, passwords, banner, interfaces, fast Ethernet and serial, and as well as routing, which is a static route on R1 ISP and default route on R2 Central. So let's begin. Click the router and go to command line interface. The first command that we're going to use is enable. With enable command, we will be able to switch the privilege level command set. The next will be config T or configuration terminal, which is to make configuration changes with the host name R1 ISP. Then enter. Next will be banner MOTD. Banner MOTD is a message presented to a user who will connect to the router with delimiting character. Delimiting character, it could be any character as long as you write the same character at the end of your message. Enter. It is said here, enter text message. Based on the instruction, we're going to use this message. This is lab router R1 ISP authorized access only. And don't forget the delimiting character because banner MOTD will only be generated when you write a delimiting character at the end of the message. Then enter. Next will be enable secret Cisco. Enable secret Cisco is we are enabling secret password which is Cisco. Next will be line console 0. Line console command is a command to enter into console port configuration. And password Cisco. We set the password Cisco for authentication and log in. We set the router to ask for authentication when someone tries to connect via console. The next command will be line VTY015, VTY or virtual teletype. It is used to facilitate connection via telnet with a range of 0 to 15. Then password Cisco. After, we're going to exit. Next, we are going to configure the IP address of Fast Ethernet 00 with this command. Then enter. Write IP address. And the IP address is this one with the subnet mask. 192.168.3.78 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.22240. Then enter. Next will be no shutdown. No shutdown command to enable interface configuration. Then we're going to exit. Next is we're going to configure the serial interface address with this command. Int 00 enter IP address. The IP address of serial interface is 192.168.3.98. 98 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.252. Then enter. Then again, no, shut down. Then enter. It is specified in the instruction that we are going to set the clock rate of 64,000 on R1 ISP's serial interface. So clock rate 64,000. When we say clock rate, it is to set on how many bits can be sent over a given time. So we have 64,000. So you will never be able to send faster than 64 kilobytes per second. Then enter. Then we're going to exit. The next, we are going to configure the routing. It is in the instruction that R1 ISP should have a static route with the following format. Input, IP route, and the network address of R2 Central LAN, which is 192.168.3.0, with the subnet mask of 255.255.255.224, and the serial interface address of R2 Central, which is 192.168.3.97. Then enter. Continue, exit. In order to save the running configuration so that it will still be available even after a reboot, we're going to use this command. Copy running config startup config, or also known as copy run start. Enter, then exit. So we're done configuring R1 ISP router. The completion percentage is 54%, and we're going to check the results. Under assessment items. As you can see, under R1 ISP, we have also green check marks that shows we configure correctly. So let's proceed. So let's continue to R2 Central configuration. In configuring R2 Central, we are going to use the same process with R1 ISP route. Click the device and go to command line interface. Enter, then enable. Config the host name will be R2 Central. Banner MOTD. So the text message that we're going to enter is, this is lab router R2 Central authorized access only. Don't forget the delimiting character. Enter. So, enable Cisco. Next will be line console 0. Password Cisco. Login. Then line virtual teletype 0 to 15 range. Password Cisco. Login again. Then exit. Next is we're going to configure the IP address of the PAS Ethernet. So in if a 00, enter IP address. So the IP address of our R2 Central is 192.168.3.0. With the subnet mask of 255.255.255.224. Then enter. No shutdown. Then exit. Next is we're going to configure the IP address of the serial interface. Enter IP address. The IP address of our serial 00 is this one with the subnet mask 192.168.3.97 with the subnet mask of 255.255.255.252. Then enter. No shutdown. Then exit. Next is we're going to configure the routing. It is the instruction that R2 Central should have a static route in the following format. So IP route 0.0.0.0 space 0.0.0.0 and the serial interface address of R1 ISP, which is 192.168.3.98. So enter. Next will be exit. Then save the configuration. Then enter, exit. So we're done configuring R2 Central router. Close, and then let's proceed to S1 Central or the switch. It is in the instruction that on the switch, configure the hostname banner. This is lab switch S1 Central authorized access only with password for access, enable secret password console and telnet passwords, all set to Cisco, and management interface or interface virtual LAN 1. So click the device and go to command line interface. Enter. Same as router 1 and router 2, we are going to use the command enable. Keep and the host name S1, central. Banner MOTD with delimiting character. So the message is, this is log switch S1 central authorized access only. Don't forget the delimiting character. Then, enter. Next is we're going to enable the password. Then enter. Line console 0, then password Cisco. Login, then line virtual teletype range 0 to 15, then enter. Password Cisco. Login, then exit. So here it is in the instruction that we're going to configure the management interface or the interface virtual LAN. So input in VLAN 1, then enter. Next is we're going to input the IP address. So the IP address of the switch will be 192.168.3.29 with the subnet mask 255.255.255.224. Then going to enter. Then no shutdown. Then exit twice. Then we're going to save the current configuration. So copy, running, config, startup, config. Enter, then exit. So we're done configuring the S1 central switch. Let's close and proceed to the end devices. So it is stated in the instruction that for hosts A and B, in addition to IP address configuration, configure them to use DNS services. So let's continue. Click PC1A and turn on the device and go to configuration. The gateway will be the IP address of the router R2 central, which is 192.168.3.30. And the DNS server is the IP address of our server, which is 192.168.3.77. Then let's configure the fast Ethernet interface. The IP address of this PC1A is 192.168.3.1 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.224. Then, so we're done in configuring PC1A. So let's proceed in configuring PC1B and turn on the device. We can also use the desktop tab in configuring the IP address, DNS server, and the subnet mask and the default gateway. The IP address will be 192.168.3.2 with the subnet mask of 255.255.224. As I've said, the default gateway is the IP address of our router R2 Central. With the DNS server IP address of our server, which is 192.168.3.77. So we're done configuring. Let's check the completion percentage. As you can see, we got completion percentage of 100%. Then click the results. As you can see, the total points is 61 and completed items is 61 and the required items is 61. So it means we configure all that is in the instruction. So that would be all. Thank you, and I hope you learned something from this video.